Did you know only 1.6% viewers subscribed? Hit that subscribe button. Let's reach 1K for a surprise video. Your support means the world. The Vorten explorer orbited Earth with the majestic arrogance only the technologically superior could muster. Inside the sleek, silver spacecraft, Commander Zor stood at the helm, his elongated fingers dancing over holographic controls. His piercing violet eyes scanned the data streaming from the planet below, and a smirk played on his lips. "Primitive," he muttered, disdain dripping from his voice. "These humans, with their rudimentary tools and laughable technology, are no match for our advanced civilization." Lieutenant Tarl, standing to Zor's right, furrowed his brow. Unlike his commander, Tarl was intrigued by Earth and its inhabitants. "Primitive, perhaps," he began cautiously, "but their planet is teeming with life. There might be something of value here." Commander Zor waved a dismissive hand. "We'll see," he said. "Dr. Varen, prepare for landing. I want to collect samples and observe these humans firsthand." Dr. Varen, the ship's xenobiologist, adjusted his spectacles and nodded. "As you wish, Commander." His tone held a mixture of curiosity and superiority. The ship's engines hummed to life, and the Vorten explorer descended gracefully through Earth's atmosphere, touching down in the heart of the Daintree rainforest. The dense canopy of trees, lush with verdant foliage and teeming with wildlife, surrounded the alien vessel, creating a stark contrast between nature's organic chaos and the ship's sterile precision. On the forest floor, Jake Anderson knelt beside a cluster of orchids, carefully documenting their characteristics in his worn leather journal. His tan skin glistened with sweat, and his eyes sparkled with passion for his work. The rainforest was his sanctuary, a place where he felt a profound connection to the natural world. Suddenly, a shadow passed over him, and Jake looked up to see the massive alien craft. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. He had always believed in extraterrestrial life, but witnessing it firsthand was overwhelming. The ship's hatch opened with a hiss, and Commander Zor, Lieutenant Tarl, and Dr. Varen emerged, their sleek, silver uniforms reflecting the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. They approached Jake with a confident stride, their expressions unreadable. Jake stood, clutching his journal tightly. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins.
Commander Zor Sniret.
"We are the Vortens, explorers of the cosmos. You, human, are about to become part of our research." Jake bristled at the condescension in Zor's tone. "I'm not some lab rat for you to experiment on," he retorted. "This is my home, and these forests are invaluable." Dr. Varen chuckled, adjusting his spectacles. "Invaluable? To whom? Your species? How quaint." Lieutenant Tarl stepped forward, his eyes softening as he studied Jake. "Perhaps we can learn from each other," he suggested. "Your planet is unique, after all." Before Jake could respond, the ground beneath them rumbled. A plume of smoke rose in the distance, and the acrid scent of burning wood filled the air. Jake's eyes widened in alarm. "Fire," he said urgently. "A forest fire is spreading fast. We need to move." Commander Zor glanced at the rising smoke, unimpressed. "We have technology far superior to handle such primitive dangers." Jake shook his head, frustration bubbling within him. "You don't understand. The fire will spread quickly through the underbrush. We have to act now if we want to save the forest and ourselves." Tarl looked to Zor, his expression pleading. "Commander, perhaps we should listen. This is his domain, after all." Zor's eyes narrowed, but he nodded curtly. "Very well, human. Lead the way." Without another word, Jake sprinted into the dense foliage, the aliens following closely behind. The heat intensified as they neared the blaze, and Jake's mind raced with strategies to contain the fire. He knew the rainforest like the back of his hand, every path and water source ingrained in his memory. Reaching a small stream, Jake grabbed a fallen branch and dipped it into the water, instructing the aliens to do the same. "We need to create a fire break," he explained. "Use these to beat back the flames." Commander Zor hesitated, his pride warring with the urgency of the situation. Tarl, however, didn't hesitate. He grabbed a branch and began working alongside Jake, their efforts synchronized. As the flames roared, the makeshift team fought back with determination. The heat was oppressive, and sweat poured down their faces, but Jake's expertise and the alien's strength created an effective barrier. Slowly, the fire began to lose its ferocity, beaten back by their relentless efforts. Finally, the flames subsided, leaving smoldering embers in their wake. Jake collapsed to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. He looked up to see Lieutenant Tarl extending a hand to help him up. "You saved us," Tarl said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "Your knowledge is impressive." Jake accepted the hand and stood, meeting Tarl's gaze. "We saved the forest," he corrected. "Maybe we're not so primitive after all." The air in the rainforest hung thick with moisture, the scent of charred wood still lingering from the recent fire. Jake Anderson led the Vorton team back to his camp, a modest setup nestled beneath the towering canopy. His mind buzzed with questions about the aliens and their intentions, but he knew the immediate priority was to regroup and plan the next steps. Commander Zor walked with an air of impatience, his eyes scanning the surroundings with a mixture of disdain and curiosity. Lieutenant Tarl, however, seemed genuinely intrigued by the flora and fauna, occasionally pausing to examine a plant or insect. Dr. Varen followed silently, his gaze fixed on Jake, studying him like a specimen under a microscope. Jake felt the weight of their scrutiny but remained focused on the task at hand. As they reached the camp, Jake gestured to a circle of logs around a central fire pit. "Have a seat," he said, trying to keep his tone neutral. "We need to discuss what just happened and what comes next." Commander Zor sat reluctantly, his rigid posture betraying his discomfort. "You demonstrated surprising resourcefulness, human," he admitted begrudgingly. "But do not mistake this for an alliance. Our mission remains unchanged." Jake nodded, suppressing a sigh. "I understand, but if you're going to study Earth, you need to respect its ecosystems. This forest is a delicate balance of life, and your presence could disrupt it." Lieutenant Tarl leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "Tell us more about your work, Jake. Why do you devote yourself to these forests?" Jake smiled faintly, his passion for the rainforest evident in his voice. "These forests are the lungs of our planet. They provide oxygen, regulate the climate, and support countless species, including us. I've dedicated my life to understanding and protecting them because they are vital to our survival." Dr. Varen scoffed, but there was a flicker of interest in his eyes. "Fascinating. Primitive, yet complex." Commander Zor waved a hand dismissively. "Enough sentimentality. We have more pressing matters to attend to." Before Jake could respond, a rustling noise interrupted them. From the shadows emerged a group of indigenous people, their expressions wary but resolute. They were led by an elderly woman with wise eyes and an air of authority. Jake stood, greeting her with respect. "Elder Miri, these are visitors from another world." Elder Miri regarded the aliens with a penetrating gaze. "You bring danger to our home," she said, her voice steady. "The forest spirits are restless." Commander Zor straightened, his demeanor imperious. "We mean no harm. We seek knowledge." Elder Miri nodded slowly. "Knowledge is a double-edged blade. You must tread carefully, or you will find more than you bargained for." Lieutenant Tarl rose, his voice conciliatory. "We wish to learn from you as well. Perhaps we can help each other." Miri's eyes softened slightly. "Perhaps. But trust must be earned, not demanded." A tense silence followed, broken by the sound of distant machinery. Jake's heart sank. He knew that sound all too well, logging trucks. The forest's greatest threat was not from alien visitors, but from his fellow humans. "We need to stop them," Jake said urgently. "If the logging continues, this forest will be destroyed." Commander Zor's eyes narrowed. "This is your problem, not ours." Jake clenched his fists, frustration boiling over. "If you care about learning, you'll help. This forest is a treasure trove of knowledge, but it won't survive if we don't act." Tarl looked to Zor, his expression pleading. "Commander, this could be an opportunity to understand the human struggle. Their fight to protect their world is part of what makes them unique." Zor considered this, then nodded curtly. "Very well. We will assist, but do not expect this to change our mission's objective. Jake didn't waste any time. He grabbed his communication device and called his conservation team, explaining the urgent situation. Within minutes, they had a plan to confront the loggers and protect the forest. As they made their way through the dense foliage, Jake felt a surge of hope. The Vortons might have come to Earth with a sense of superiority, but perhaps they would leave with a deeper understanding of its value. They reached the logging site just as the machines roared to life, their destructive power evident. Jake's team, along with the Vortons and Eldermiri's people, formed a human and alien barrier between the loggers and the forest. The loggers, led by a burly man named Clive, sneered at the sight. "Get out of the way, tree huggers. We've got a job to do." Jake stepped forward, his voice firm. "This forest is protected land. You have no right to be here." Clive laughed, but his amusement faded as the Vortons stepped forward, their alien presence intimidating. "What the hell are they?" he muttered. "Allies," Jake replied, his voice unwavering. "And we're not moving." A tense standoff ensued, the loggers' frustration mounting. Just as it seemed violence might erupt, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Reinforcements from the conservation authorities arrived, ensuring the loggers had no choice but to retreat. As the helicopters landed and the authorities began to secure the area, Commander Zor turned to Jake, his expression inscrutable. "You humans are more resilient than I thought," he conceded. "Perhaps there is more to learn here after all." Jake nodded, his heart still racing from the confrontation. "This is just the beginning. If we work together, we can protect this world and everything in it." Lieutenant Tarl smiled, a hint of admiration in his eyes. "Let's see what else Earth has to offer." The forest, bathed in the soft light of dawn, seemed to shimmer with a newfound vitality. Jake Anderson walked alongside Lieutenant Tarl, their steps in sync as they ventured deeper into the Daintree rainforest. Commander Zor and Dr. Varen followed closely, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Elder Miri had insisted on their presence, hinting at a revelation that could change everything. "Where are we headed?" Commander Zor asked, his voice cutting through the morning tranquility. Elder Miri, walking ahead with a sure-footed grace, turned to face the group. "We are approaching a sacred grove. It holds a secret, one that may help you understand the true essence of this forest." Dr. Varen rolled his eyes but kept silent. Tarl, however, was visibly intrigued. "A secret? What kind of secret?" Miri's eyes sparkled with ancient wisdom. "Patience, young one. You will see soon enough." They continued their trek, the sounds of the forest enveloping them in a symphony of life. Birds called from the treetops, insects buzzed around, and the occasional rustle of leaves hinted at the presence of unseen animals. Jake felt a deep sense of peace here, a stark contrast to the tension that had marked their earlier encounters. As they neared the grove, the air grew cooler, and an ethereal mist began to form around them. Miri stopped at the edge of a clearing, gesturing for the group to halt. "This is the heart of the forest," she whispered. "It is a place of great power and mystery." Jake looked around, taking in the sight of ancient trees towering above, their branches interwoven to form a natural canopy. The ground was carpeted with vibrant moss and delicate flowers, their colors more vivid than any he had ever seen. "Impressive," Dr. Varen muttered, unable to hide his awe. "But what makes this place so special?" Miri stepped forward, her voice resonating with authority. "This grove is home to the Tree of Ages. It is said to be the source of life for the entire rainforest, a living testament to the resilience and beauty of nature." Jake's eyes widened. He had heard legends of the Tree of Ages, but had always dismissed them as myth. Seeing the reverence in Miri's eyes, he realized there might be more truth to the stories than he had believed. Commander Zor, ever the skeptic, crossed his arms. "And what does this tree have to do with us?" Miri smiled gently. "The Tree of Ages is not just a symbol. It is a living entity with a connection to all life in this forest. If you truly wish to understand Earth and its people, you must understand this tree." Tarl approached the tree, his expression contemplative. "What do we need to do?" "Listen," Miri replied simply. "Listen to the whispers of the forest. It will guide you." As the group stood in silent contemplation, Jake closed his eyes, attuning himself to the subtle sounds around him. He could hear the gentle rustling of leaves, the distant call of a bird, and beneath it all, a faint, rhythmic pulse. It was as if the forest itself had a heartbeat, a steady, life-affirming rhythm that connected every living thing. Suddenly, a brilliant light emanated from the tree, illuminating the grove. The aliens and humans alike gasped in astonishment as the tree's bark seemed to shimmer and shift, revealing intricate patterns that pulsed with energy. Commander Zor's eyes widened, his skepticism melting away. "What is this?" "It's the life force of the forest," Jake whispered, his voice filled with awe. "I've never seen anything like it." The light intensified, and the group was enveloped in a warm, soothing glow. They could feel the energy of the tree coursing through them, filling them with a profound sense of peace and unity. For the first time, Zor and Varen seemed to grasp the depth of Earth's connection to its natural world. As the light began to fade, a sudden crack echoed through the grove. The ground trembled, and Jake's heart raced with fear. "What's happening?" Miri's expression turned grave. "The tree is under threat. The balance of the forest is in danger." A loud roar interrupted their thoughts, and they turned to see a massive machine tearing through the forest, its metal jaws ripping apart the trees. The loggers had returned, more determined than ever. Commander Zor's face hardened. "We must stop them." Jake nodded, adrenaline surging through him. "We need a plan." Lieutenant Tarl stepped forward, his voice resolute. "We'll use our technology to disable their machines, but we'll need your knowledge of the forest to navigate and outmaneuver them." Jake agreed, quickly outlining a strategy that combined the Vorton's advanced tools with the humans' intimate understanding of the terrain. As they prepared to confront the loggers, a sense of unity and purpose bound them together. The final clash came swiftly. The Vorton's technology disabled the logging machines, while Jake and his team guided them through the dense foliage, using the forest's natural defenses to their advantage. The loggers, caught off guard by the coordinated assault, had no choice but to retreat. As the last of the machines fell silent, the grove was left in a state of serene calm. Jake turned to the Vortons, gratitude and respect in his eyes. "Thank you. Together, we saved the forest." Commander Zor nodded, his demeanor softened by the experience. "It seems we have much to learn from each other." Elder Miri approached, her expression one of quiet pride. "You have done well, all of you. The forest spirits are at peace, for now." As the sun rose higher, casting dappled light through the dense canopy, the sense of accomplishment among the group began to give way to a deeper understanding of the challenges ahead. The forest, though momentarily safe, was still vulnerable to countless threats. Jake Anderson, Commander Zor, Lieutenant Tarl, Dr. Varen, and Elder Miri gathered once more near the Tree of Ages, their expressions a mix of determination and contemplation. Commander Zor's voice broke the silence, carrying an uncharacteristic note of urgency. "We need to understand the full extent of what we're dealing with here. This tree, this forest, they are more than we anticipated." Jake nodded, his eyes never leaving the ancient tree. The Tree of Ages is a symbol of the interconnectedness of all life here. If it falls, so does everything else. Dr. Varen, ever the scientist, was already scanning the tree with his advanced equipment, his face a mask of concentration. The energy readings are off the charts. It's as if this tree is a conduit for the planet's life force. Elder Miri stepped forward, her gaze serene yet intense. "The Tree of Ages holds secrets that even we do not fully comprehend. But there is something you must see, something hidden deep within the heart of the forest. Follow me." The group moved in silence, the atmosphere charged with anticipation. As they walked, the forest seemed to come alive around them, the flora and fauna responding to their presence in ways that were almost sentient. Birds flitted from branch to branch, their songs a harmonious backdrop to the rustling leaves and distant animal calls. They arrived at a secluded glade, where a small, crystal-clear pond shimmered in the sunlight. Miri knelt beside the water and motioned for the others to join her. "This is the Well of Echoes. It is said to hold visions of the past, present, and future. To understand the true nature of the Tree of Ages, you must gaze into its depths." One by one, They peered into the pond, the water's surface reflecting not their faces, but scenes from a time long past. Jake saw ancient civilizations rise and fall, their fates intertwined with the health of the forests. Tarl witnessed the birth of stars and planets, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the fragile beauty of life on Earth. Zor's vision was of great wars and the delicate peace that followed, a testament to the resilience of nature. Dr. Varen, however, saw something different. His vision was of the future, a dark, desolate world where the forests were no more, replaced by barren wastelands and polluted skies. The image sent a shiver down his spine, and for the first time, he felt a pang of true fear for the fate of this planet. Miri's voice was soft but resolute. What you see are the possible outcomes of our actions. The future is not set in stone. We have the power to change it. Commander Zor straightened, his expression grim. We need more than just visions. We need concrete steps to protect this world. Jake's mind raced with possibilities. We could start by sharing our knowledge, your technology, and our understanding of the forest. Together, we can create solutions that neither of us could achieve alone. Tarl nodded, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. We could develop advanced conservation methods, use our technology to monitor and protect the ecosystems in real time. Varen, still shaken by his vision, added, we could also use genetic research to bolster the resilience of the forest species, making them more adaptable to changing conditions. As they discussed their plans, a sense of hope began to build. But just as they started to form a concrete strategy, a loud, mechanical roar shattered the tranquility of the glade. They turned to see a massive, heavily armored vehicle crashing through the underbrush, its path of destruction evident. Jake's heart sank. The loggers have returned, and they're better equipped. Commander Zor's eyes narrowed. We must stop them here and now. This is a battle we cannot afford to lose. The group sprang into action, their earlier discussions of collaboration now put to the test. Zor and Tarl deployed their advanced weaponry, using energy pulses to disable the vehicle systems. Jake and his team, armed with their intimate knowledge of the terrain, set traps and barriers to slow the progress of the invaders. The confrontation was intense, the loggers' determination clashing with the resolve of the forest's defenders. As the vehicle's engine roared and sputtered, a mini-climax unfolded. Jake found himself face-to-face with Clive, the burly leader of the loggers. You again, Clive snarled, brandishing a heavy tool. This forest is ours to take. Jake stood his ground, his voice unwavering. Not while I'm here. Before Clive could strike, a brilliant flash of light erupted from the Tree of Ages, blinding everyone momentarily. When the light faded, the loggers were on the ground, unconscious but unharmed, their machinery disabled and smoking. Commander Zor lowered his weapon, his expression one of awe and determination. The tree has protected us, but this is just the beginning. We need a long-term solution. Elder Miri stepped forward, her eyes filled with wisdom and resolve. Indeed, the forest has shown its power, but now it is up to us to protect it. Together, we can ensure its survival.